The heart monitor screamed a single, unbroken note, sharp enough to cut through bone. Somebody said it out loud before anyone could stop them. "He's gone." The words landed heavy in the trauma bay, final as a slammed door. A Navy SEAL lay on the table, chest open, skin grey. 20 bullet wounds mapped across him like a failed geography lesson. Blood pooled where pressure should have been winning. "Step back," the attending surgeon snapped, already pulling off his gloves. His voice carried the tired authority of a man who had learned when to quit. "Call it." Then a quieter voice cut through the room. "Move." They turned. Not because it was loud, because it was certain. Rachel Morgan was already gloving up. 32. First-year staff. The one people forgot to learn the name of. She didn't ask permission. She didn't look at the surgeon. Her eyes stayed on the body like it was still listening. Her hands moved fast. Not frantic. Precise. Packing. Clamping. Sealing. The rhythm didn't belong to a civilian nurse. A resident swallowed hard. "He's got no pulse." Rachel leaned closer, breath steady, voice low. "Not yet." Someone laughed, sharp and nervous. "You can't watch," she said, and pressed harder, finding something no monitor could see. Her fingers worked between ribs, angled just off-center. The room shrank to sound and motion. Rubber soles squeaked, metal rattled. The surgeon stared, anger bleeding into disbelief. "Rachel, step away," he warned, softer now. She didn't look up. "Not while I'm still breathing." The tone broke. A single beep. Then another. Air rushed back into the room like it had been waiting outside. The surgeon's mouth opened. The resident's knees locked. Somewhere, a nurse whispered, "What did you just do?" Rachel didn't answer. She just nodded at the clock. "You've got minutes. Use them." And for the first time that night, the dead man wasn't the only one holding secrets. By dawn, the story had already outrun the elevators. Nurses whispered it near the supply closet. Residents replayed it with shaking hands over burnt coffee. The rookie nurse. The flatline. The pulse that came back. In trauma, too, the man with 20 bullets was still breathing. Machines sighing for him like borrowed lungs. Rachel stood at the sink, washing blood from her wrists. Water running clear, then red again, as if the night refused to let go. The attending surgeon watched her from the doorway. His anger had cooled into something sharper. Curiosity edged with threat. "You crossed protocol," he said. "Not loud, not kind. You don't get to freelance with a human life." Rachel dried her hands, slow, deliberate. She met his eyes for the first time. There was no apology there, only focus. "Then write me up," she said, "after he wakes up." A tech cleared his throat. "Vitals are holding." The room shifted. Authority wavered. The surgeon turned away, jaw tight, already rewriting the story for the chart. The hours blurred. Stretchers came and went. Sirens stitched the night together. Rachel moved through it all without being asked, without being thanked. She anticipated needs before words formed. She caught a bleed before it bloomed. When a resident fumbled, she didn't scold. She steadied his hands with a look that said, "Breathe." Around her, people felt the pressure ease, like a storm passing just overhead. Near midnight, the man on the table stirred. His eyes fluttered. He whispered something hoarse and broken. Rachel leaned in. "You're still here," she said, and meant more than the room could hear. Across the bay, 2 interns watched. One shook his head. "That's not a nurse." The other swallowed. "No, that's someone who's been here before." Rachel checked the clock. Minutes mattered. She stayed close. Somewhere deep inside the hospital, something else woke up too. Suspicion. Records. Eyes that didn't belong to medicine. The night wasn't done asking questions, and Rachel Morgan had just made herself the answer. The trauma alarm screamed again before anyone had time to breathe. Another gurney slammed through the doors, then another, the night turning feral all over again. Blood on shoes, radios barking numbers that meant nothing until they meant everything. Rachel was already moving, shoulders squared, voice calm in a room that had forgotten how to be. Bay 3. Pressure here. Don't cut yet. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. People listened the way you listen to gravity. A resident hesitated with scissors mid-air. Doctor said. Rachel shook her head once. "You cut now, he bleeds out." The resident froze, then nodded. Later he would tell himself it was instinct. He would not admit it was trust. In the corner, the charge nurse watched, fingers white around a clipboard. She had hired Rachel 6 months ago because the resume was clean and quiet. Too clean, no drama, no ambition. Now she felt something tighten behind her ribs. This wasn't learning on the fly. This was recall. By early morning, 9 lives were still on monitors that should have gone silent. 9 charts that didn't make sense if you believed medicine followed straight lines. The surgeon returned, scanned vitals, and said nothing. His silence was louder than the alarms. He signed where he had to. He avoided Rachel's eyes. In trauma 2, the SEAL breathed on his own for a moment. His eyes opened, focused, sharp even through pain. He looked at Rachel like he recognized a shoreline after a long swim. "You didn't flinch," he rasped. She adjusted the IV. "Neither did you." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "You've done this before." She paused. "Just long enough. Once or twice." Down the hall, security cameras rolled, logs updated. Somewhere far from the ER, a database rejected a name that should have been there. The night shift thought the danger had passed. It hadn't. It had just changed uniforms. The morning brought light without relief. Sun crept through high windows and found the stains no one had time to scrub. Charts piled up. Coffee went cold untouched. Rachel walked the hall with the quiet economy of someone counting exits without meaning to. She felt it before she saw it. Eyes that lingered. Voices that dropped when she passed. The charge nurse stopped her near the med room. Administration wants incident reports, she said. Careful. Too careful. All of them. Rachel nodded. They'll get them? And Rachel, the woman added, softer now. What you did last night. You saved people. Rachel met her gaze. Gratitude flickered there. Then fear. I know. In trauma, too, the SEAL slept. His name read Daniel Brooks on the board, age 36. Status guarded. A federal marshal stood outside the door, pretending to be a visitor. He wasn't good at it. Rachel adjusted the pump, felt the rhythm under her fingers. Brooks stirred. They'll come, he whispered, not opening his eyes. Who? People who ask questions that aren't really questions. They arrived before noon. 2 men in clean suits that didn't belong to a hospital. Shoes too polished, posture too still. One flashed a badge at the desk. Federal Bureau of Investigation. The words fell into the room like ice. Heads turned. Screens reflected faces that tried not to look. They asked for Rachel Morgan. The charge nurse's mouth went dry. She's on shift. That's fine, the taller agent said. We won't take long. Rachel stepped forward before her name could be repeated. The agents studied her the way hunters study weather. One smiled without warmth. Miss Morgan, we're curious how a first-year nurse brought back a man with no pulse and 20 gunshot wounds. Rachel held his gaze. I didn't bring him back. He wasn't finished. The smile faded. A tablet chimed softly. That's interesting, the agent said. Because according to our system, there is no nurse by that name. The hallway went very quiet. Silence spread faster than any rumor. Phones stopped buzzing. Carts paused mid-roll. The taller agent watched Rachel the way a man watches a bridge he's about to test. No license history before 2014, he said mildly. No training records we can verify. No fingerprints that stick. He tilted the tablet. You don't exist where you should. Rachel felt the weight settle, familiar and unwelcome. Hospitals lose paperwork, she said. Happens every day. The second agent stepped closer, voice low. Not like this. Down the hall, Daniel Brooks opened his eyes. Pain anchored him to the room. Memory came in pieces. Sand, noise, hands that didn't shake. He pushed himself up an inch and stopped when the monitor complained. Where's the nurse? He rasped. The marshal shifted, uneasy. Rest. I know who saved me, Brooks said. Let her speak. The agents followed Rachel into a small conference room that smelled like disinfectant and old coffee. The door clicked shut. You used off-chart techniques, the taller agent said, and a compound we don't teach civilians. Rachel folded her hands. I used what worked. That's not an answer. It is when someone's bleeding out. The shorter agent slid a photo across the table. A younger man in uniform, smiling against desert light. You recognize him? Rachel didn't look at it. Her jaw tightened. No. Lieutenant Daniel Brooks was targeted because he knows things, the agent said. Your intervention kept him alive. That makes you part of the picture. Across the glass wall, staff pretended to work. The charge nurse wiped a counter that was already clean. Fear has a sound. It hums. The taller agent leaned back. We're going to keep asking, Miss Morgan, because people who do what you did learned it somewhere. Rachel stood. Then ask better questions. She opened the door and walked back into the noise. Behind her, the agents exchanged a look. The kind that says the file just got heavier. Outside, sunlight hit the floor. Inside Rachel, something old shifted. The past had found her. And it wasn't finished either. By late afternoon, the hospital felt watched. Not by cameras, by intention. Rachel moved through the ward with charts tucked to her chest, aware of every reflection in the glass. She kept her face neutral, steps measured. Control was a habit. Panic was a luxury she had never afforded. In trauma, too, Daniel Brooks was awake now, color returning in cautious increments. He tracked her with eyes that missed nothing. "They're here for you," he said quietly. "They're here for answers," Rachel replied, checking his lines. He exhaled, a sound halfway to a laugh. "Same thing, where I'm from." A nurse hovered in the doorway, whispering that administration wanted her downstairs. Rachel nodded once. In the stairwell she paused, palm flat on cool concrete, counting breaths the way she always had. 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out. When she opened her eyes, the smell of antiseptic was gone. For a heartbeat there was dust and heat, and the echo of rotor blades. She swallowed it down and kept moving. The office was small. The agents waited with patience sharpened to a point. "We pulled a deeper search," the taller one said. "Names change. Patterns don't." Rachel sat. "You won't find what you're looking for." "Oh, we think we will," the shorter agent said, sliding another tablet forward. "There's a gap. Years long. Overseas clinics. Volunteer work with no dates." "People help where they're needed," Rachel said. The taller agent nodded. "Sometimes. Other times, they're told." Outside the office, a code blue echoed and dissolved. Life went on, stubborn and loud. Inside, the agents watched her hands. They were steady. Too steady. "Whatever you were," the taller agent said, "softer now." "It's not gone." Rachel met his eyes. "Neither is the work." When she stood to leave, her phone buzzed once. Unknown number. No message, just the vibration. She didn't check it. She already knew what it meant. The promise she'd made years ago was cracking, and when it broke, it would break loud. The call came after sunset, when the hospital tried to pretend the day was normal again. Rachel felt the vibration in her pocket while she was restocking gauze, the kind of buzz that didn't belong to spam or wrong numbers. She stepped into an empty alcove and answered without speaking. For a second, there was only breathing. Controlled. Familiar. "You were seen," the voice said. "Male. Older. Calm in a way civilians never are. You broke cover." "I saved lives," Rachel said. "That's how it always starts," the voice replied. "That's how it always ends." She hung up before he could say more. In the glass across from her, her reflection looked thinner somehow, stretched between 2 timelines that refused to stay separate. She straightened her badge. Rachel Morgan. The name felt lighter than it should. Daniel Brooks was sitting up when she returned, pain etched clean across his face. "They'll burn you to protect what they buried," he said. "Rest," she told him. "I've been resting my whole career," he said. "That's how they get away with it." Down the hall, the agent spoke in low voices with administration. Words like jurisdiction and national security drifted through open doors. The surgeon avoided the area entirely. Courage has a radius. He had reached his. Near midnight, Rachel cleaned out her locker. Not hurried, methodical. She left the scrubs folded, the badge on top. When the charge nurse saw it, her eyes filled. "You don't have to run," she whispered. Rachel touched her arm. "I do." Outside, the parking lot lights buzzed. A sedan idled across the street too long to be waiting for anyone. Rachel didn't look at it. She walked the other way, steps even, breath slow. She had been hunted before. The trick was never speed. It was choosing the ground. Somewhere above the city, clouds gathered without rain. The night held its breath. Rachel crossed the street and disappeared between buildings, carrying nothing but memory and the quiet certainty that the past doesn't stay buried when the living need it back. The overpass overlooked the city like a scar. Traffic hissed below. Headlights sliding past each other without ever touching. Rachel stood at the rail, coat pulled tight, the metal cold under her palms. From here, the hospital was a block of light, orderly and unaware, as if it had already moved on. She closed her eyes and let the memories come in controlled bursts. Sand grinding into skin. Radios screaming call signs. A hand slipping from hers because there was no more blood to give. Her phone buzzed again. This time she answered. "If you're coming," she said, "don't bring uniforms." A pause. "We already did," the voice said. "They're not ours." Headlights flared at the end of the ramp. A van slowed. Too smooth, too deliberate. Rachel didn't run. She stepped back, counted the angles, the exits. She dropped a small flashlight into a puddle and crushed it with her heel. Glass popped. Sparks skipped. The van braked. Doors slid. Men moved the way contractors do, efficient and silent, hands where weapons sleep. Rachel was already gone. She slipped through a service corridor and into a warehouse that smelled of oil and paper. Inside she laid out what she'd carried all along. A battered drive, a notebook dense with names, routes, dates. Proof has weight. She felt it in her wrists. She dialed once more, breath steady. "I have it," she said. "All of it." "Then get it out," the voice replied. "No," Rachel said. "I end it." Footsteps echoed. She didn't flinch. She chose a position that controlled the door and waited. When the first man appeared, she moved to slow, not to win. Stall. Bleed time. Sirens grew somewhere distant, not for her, but because the city never stops breaking. By the time the smoke thinned, 2 men were down, and the rest had retreated. Rachel pressed the drive into a familiar hand. "Give this to Donovan," she said. "Tell him the war never ended. It just learned to hide." Then she vanished again, leaving behind fire, truth, and a choice that would follow everyone who touched it. Morning broke without forgiveness. The warehouse smouldered behind caution tape, while men in windbreakers catalogued silence. Agent Donovan stood over the blackened concrete, the drive heavy in his pocket, the notebook heavier in his mind. Names looped back to shell charities, procurement chains, clinics that weren't clinics at all. The phrase kept repeating like a bruise you couldn't stop touching. Field Stabilization Program. He exhaled and kept reading. At the hospital, Daniel Brooks signed himself out against advice, arm in a sling, gait stubborn. He walked past the south hallway and stopped. A frame had gone up overnight. No plaque. Just a folded sleeve, marine green, patch intact. He pressed 2 fingers to the glass the way men do when they don't pray anymore. Still breathing, he murmured. Donovan found him an hour later. She's gone, he said. Brooks didn't turn. She was never staying. We're freezing contracts. Subpoenas are moving. Good, Brooks said. They'll crawl when the light hits. Behind closed doors, a hearing convened without cameras. No speeches. Just staffers who smelled like toner and fear, and men who had learned how to look grave on command. Donovan spoke plainly. The room grew quiet in the way rooms do, when truth doesn't fit the margins. A program went dark, or deeper. No one could be sure. That night, Rachel sat on the floor of a borrowed room. Maps spread, the notebook open. She'd traced a name and crossed it out. Then another. Her phone buzzed once. A single line. You did enough. She didn't answer. Outside, rain finally came, hard and cleansing. Somewhere, a machine slowed. Somewhere else it learned. Rachel packed light and left before dawn, carrying no badge, no uniform, only the calm that comes when you stop running and start choosing what ends. 3 months later, the city relearned how to sleep. Sirens folded back into background noise. The hospital replaced windows and repainted walls, the scars smoothed but not erased. In the south hallway the frame remained, the sleeve, the quiet. People slowed there without knowing why, as if the air asked them to. Agent Donovan didn't sleep much. The drive lived in a safe behind his desk. 5 terabytes of ledgers and burner accounts and purchase orders that spelled medicine while meaning leverage. Every lead ended in dust or doubled back on itself. Progress looked like a door cracked, not kicked in. He drafted a report twice. He deleted it twice. Truth and survival made bad roommates. Daniel Brooks worked his rehab like a man negotiating with pain on his own terms. He lifted when told not to. He learned the new limits without announcing them. On his last day inpatient, he stood in front of the frame again. 2 fingers to the glass, a nod. Then he left without saying goodbye. The text came at dusk. Unknown number. You're watching the wrong doors. A pin dropped on his screen. A riverside warehouse zoned as a donation depot. Donovan grabbed his coat. He didn't call it in. The warehouse smelled like ammonia and ink. Pallets of relief kits sat shrink-wrapped and innocent. In the back room, Shelves of sealed ampules and unlabeled syringes waited under fluorescent glare. 2 portable monitors blinked a diagnostic console that shouldn't exist outside a black site. Donovan photographed everything. Breath shallow. A shadow moved between aisles. "Don't shoot," a voice said, low and steady. Rachel stepped into the light, hands empty, hair braided tight, face thinner but concerted. "These are the veins," she said, nodding at the shelves. "Your drive was the heart." He felt anger hitch on relief. "You disappeared. I had to get here first," she said. "Finish it." They worked until dawn, cataloguing proof with the precision of field triage. When it was done, Rachel handed him a battered notebook. "Pull the pins," she said. Then she waited, not to run, but to see what he would choose. The hearing wasn't televised. No banners. No grandstanding. Just a federal room with cheerful art no one looked at, and a recorder that hummed like it was tired of remembering. Rachel sat straight, hands folded, eyes clear. When asked for her name, she gave it without drama, then the one she'd worn before, and the room shifted the way rooms do when a story stops being abstract. She spoke in procedure. Airway, bleed, clamp, dose, balance. Words learned where permission arrived too late. She explained why rules exist and why sometimes they fail the living. When the chair pressed about authorization, she didn't flinch. "I broke protocol because he was dying," she said. "That's the math." No one interrupted. 2 aides stopped typing. Daniel Brooks testified last. He didn't raise his voice. "All I know," he said, "is a nurse treated me like I mattered when it counted. If that breaks your rules, fix your rules." The recorder clicked. A colonel tried to reframe. Rachel met his eyes. "We're not accountants," she said. Silence landed and stayed. Subpoenas followed. Not enough. Not perfect. Real. A pipeline froze. A contractor lost a contract. A program went dark or learned to hide better. Progress and uncertainty shook hands and called it a day. That evening, Rachel went home to a place that felt less like a safe house and more like a room. She made tea and didn't drink it. At 2:17 in the morning, the intercom buzzed twice, short. Her pulse sprinted, then settled. She opened the door. Daniel stood there with a small box. No uniform, no swagger. He set it down like it might bite. "Found it with my effects," he said. Inside lay a ring darkened at one edge, a photo in desert light, a folded map with coordinates circled. Rachel touched the ring like it remembered skin. Grief came like weather. She let it pass through. Shift change came with the soft clatter of carts and the familiar hum that meant work was about to begin again. Rachel walked through the ER doors without a badge clipped too high or a name that needed explaining. She signed the paper that made the place hers again, not as a ghost, not as a rumor, but as a nurse who had chosen to stay. By 7 o'clock, the room filled the way it always did. A boy with a crushed hand sobbed into his sleeve. An older woman breathed like her chest was counting moth wings. A construction worker joked too loud to hide his fear. Rachel moved between them, steady, present, hands doing what hands are meant to do. In the south hallway, the frame had changed. The sleeve remained. The ring rested beside it now, cleaned, catching light. A small card spoke without ceremony about choosing life before paperwork. People slowed there. Some nodded. Some didn't know why their shoulders eased. Daniel passed by once on his way out, walking better than yesterday. He didn't stop her. He didn't need to. They shared the quiet look of people who know what it costs to keep breathing. Near midnight, a call crackled over the intercom. Multi-vehicle collision, minutes out. Everyone moved. Rachel pulled on gloves and felt the old readiness arrive, but something new stayed with it. Peace. She took her place at Bay 3. The doors opened. The night leaned in. Rachel leaned back, unafraid. If this story carried you, if you believe quiet strength changes rooms and rules follow people who refuse to look away, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with 3 words. Never judge anyone.